Thank you, everybody. Please sit down. We are happy to announce that Earth's climate has been officially restored. Carbon emissions are at zero. All water is now officially drinkable. We have high-speed rail across the globe, and all private sector coal and oil jobs have been successfully transitioned to one of renewable energy. Yes.
Was this the result of some secret congressional initiative?
No, we are told a man with blue skin flew out of a fissure in the Earth's crust, and he took care of it.
How did he do that?
Eyewitnesses said that he swirled around, emitting sparkles.
Do we know where he came from?
Yes, 5 individuals remembered that they had magic rings, which, when used, would summon the man in question.
And why hadn't they done this before?
We were told they were given these rings when they were children 30 years ago, and they simply forgot.
Until today?
Yes, and then it was a matter of locating the rings, 3 of which were buried in storage lockers. 1 was given to a pawn shop to help pay off student loans, and 1 was used as payment to a prostitute. Once they were used, the man appeared, and it was over in a matter of seconds.
Where is this man now?
Unfortunately, he shouted, "The power is yours," which officers took as a threat and shot him.
Did you hear about the new Trump charges? The timing is a little suspicious, because it distracts from his next indictment. They're his security tapes. Who says that we have a right to tell somebody they can't wipe their own data? You, to Hillary. That was sensitive information on a server, as opposed to sensitive information on tacky bathroom tile. Be honest, you just don't want to talk about your boy, Biden. Right, the decrepit husk who's lost all cognition. Yep. And the ringleader of a massive bribery conspiracy. I'm just saying, all he does is lie. Try that in a small town. Don't you think it's worse Trump's trying that in a grand jury? Did you hear what Kevin McCarthy said? 15th time's the charm? No, about impeachment. It divides the nation. No, not for Trump, for Biden. Impeachment inquiry allows Congress to get the information to know the truth. Strong words. Yeah, that's why we did it twice. Look, we just want to get to the bottom of things. There's nothing more important than knowing exactly what happened. Right, unless you're a Florida history textbook explaining slavery. Whoa, who are you? Just a guy from the future. So, it's 2005, and you're a Republican, right? Yeah? What do you think of Donald Trump? The host of The Apprentice? Yeah, I don't think anyone really takes him seriously. Do you think he could mend relations with North Korea? I don't think he even wrote his own book. Good point. Do you think Donald Trump is a Christian? Probably not. Cool, so if he said he was your savior and retribution, I'd probably find that a little embarrassing. Interesting. And if he said he had a healthcare plan? What's in it? He won't tell anyone. That sounds terrible. And last question, if tomorrow he was charged with 91 counts and faced potentially decades in prison, you'd say, well, based on his history, I think I'd be surprised the number's actually that low. Will you just do me a favor and remember you said all this? Okay. No way I'd ever forget all that.
Of all the people in the world, our shifty, dead-eyed Ukrainian friend in the tracksuit is uniquely incapable of blowing up a dam. He's literally a living saint, a man in whom there is no sin.
Good evening. You probably missed the first episode of my new show on Twitter. Somewhere on your feed between DraftKings ads and Elon's latest self-promoted reminder that he's a red-pilled gigachad. Now still, this is an improvement from Fox, where I was stuck between infomercials telling you to ask your doctor about mesothelioma. Now my new show only looks bland because you aren't watching it on Apple Vision yet. Soon you'll be able to reach out and touch the smugness. Unfortunately, there's not much to say. I call Americans uninformed without acknowledging that that might be a symptom of whoever was the most watched news anchor for years. Whoops. I criticize Zelensky for dressing out of place while I myself wear a suit in a pool hall. Go figure. And finally, I suggest that you shouldn't believe in Ukraine, but you should believe in aliens. Now that may seem like a stretch, but think about how much my blank stare suddenly makes sense if you throw the X-Files theme behind it. The point is, it turns out Fox News actually kept a lot of my crazy in check. Bet you didn't see that coming. But on Twitter, it's time to take the gloves off. Something I still wish I could say to that green M&M. We'll be right back. Sir, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. Thank you for having me. Would you explain your policies without beginning with the phrase, "It goes without saying, the fact of the matter is, frankly, or make no mistake"? And just to save time, you're speaking into a microphone, so you don't need to say, "Let me be clear, I've been clear," or "crystal clear." And, sorry, just since we know where we are, you don't need to say up and down the country, "America first, the American people have spoken," or "what the American people want." Or Main Street, Wall Street, elites, working class, white collar, or blue collar. Or use patronizing sports metaphors like home run, slam dunk, touchdown, or "it's a marathon, not a sprint." And just for our viewers, a reminder, if it is what it is, then there can't be no there. It's not the new normal if we're at a crossroads. And since it can't be at the end of the day if it's also day in, day out, you might as well say time and time again, but I would prefer that you didn't. Go ahead. Okay, so I know you think this is funny, but rest assured, the GOP will never stop working for America. And what is the House doing right now? It's in recess till next week. Okay. But Gates is the problem. You can't trust someone with serious allegations who only cares about being in front of cameras and making money. So who do you think should be Speaker? Donald Trump. Right. We wouldn't even be here if Democrats had voted for McCarthy. Oh, right, because you would have voted for Pelosi. Absolutely. Even if she defended overturning an election you won. Even if she was at that moment trying to impeach Trump. Yes, because Republicans have dignity. Sure, and I bet a lot of you make it all the way through Beetlejuice without getting kicked out. Oh, come on, that wasn't as bad as Fetterman wearing a hoodie. The dress code at the Capitol should be suit and tie. Unless you're Jim Jordan. Fine, tie. Well, what about Trump's civil fraud trial? Oh yeah, the one without a jury? Who does that? His lawyer. You just don't want to accept that Mar-a-Lago is worth $1 billion. I forget, what's homeowners' tax on $1 billion? Well, it's less a home and more a document storage facility. And when it comes to trying to silence him, this judge has no business. Neither does Trump. Sorry. Are you ready for this? We are going to create a 24-hour news channel. That's great. About time. Think of the possibilities, a cleanly informed public getting just the what, when, and where. Yeah, multi-hour deep dives into policy, international diplomacy, trade, economics. Because I don't need to tell you, the complex issues that we face require complex solutions that can't be solved or even communicated in small, isolated segments. But also, we won't need to give arbitrary amounts of time to important interviews. Anchors will never hypothetically say things like, "We're going to have to leave it there," because they've negligently assigned conversations with the politicians that, shape our country to a few minutes between ad breaks. And those politicians will have to be ready with genuine responses because they know they can't just spew substance-free talking points until the time runs out. And because it's understood that the news isn't a dopamine drip, we won't have to accent everything with crashing breaking news graphics to keep people's attention, especially when that news is the anticipation of something that hasn't happened yet, or that something didn't occur because, that would be nutty. And you know what? I gotta say, I'm so glad you said 24-hour news channel, not commentary, because no one will ever say things like, "What's the mood on Capitol Hill?" or "What was your reaction?"
Sure, but
or worse yet, an anchor suggesting how we should feel, as obviously shaping the national consciousness to a prior agenda is literally the opposite of relaying news. I mean, that is a hypothetical thing that we could do, but instead, you specifically made that distinction. Wow. If we do this right, think of the informed, independently minded public that we'll have instead of a mass of easily controlled consumers. What? Were you thinking something else?
So, in your version of democracy, when you elect a new leader, majority wins.
Based on electors broken among states.
By population?
Yeah, but not evenly, and then 51% of the vote gets you
51% of the electors.
all of them,
Well, at least it's consistent.
except Maine and Nebraska.
So does this stop candidates from only visiting big states?
Yeah?
Well, that's a relief.
Because now they only visit swing states.
So this means you've been disenfranchising everyone for hundreds of years.
Technically no, because we've only been letting everybody vote since 1920.
What?
And even then, not really till 1965.
Jesus.
That's cool you guys know about Jesus.
Don't change the subject.
Sorry. Yeah, these are just the rules set up by our founding fathers.
Those old white guys drunk off their asses?
Probably.
No, we were watching with our space telescopes. They were hammered out of their minds.
That makes sense.
So to get rid of this system, you need one of those amendments.
Yeah, but that won't ever happen.
Yeah, for your country, that would be as likely as an amendment to ban alcohol.
Funny you mention that.
What?
Never mind. Welcome back. We are still waiting for an update on the latest developments in Washington. I'm joined with a contributor, a law professor, and a political strategist, who we won't hear from because opinion isn't news. We could talk about what this might mean, what the feeling's like on Capitol Hill, and whether or not any of this is precedented, but again, that's not news. So if and when we have any new information, we're right here ready, but it would be ridiculous to put people through hair and makeup and light them and focus a camera on them to discuss what we don't know. We have graphics and bombastic music cues ready when it breaks, but obviously that is for when the thing happens. We're not, a 24-hour speculation channel after all. That would be extremely tedious and probably, over time, slowly distract America from perceiving the difference between objective information and personality-driven commentary, which would be very bad. But even just me suggesting that as a possibility is far too removed from communicating the news, so I'm just going to sit quietly until something happens. Nope. Someone coughed. I'm just gonna let me know when you're ready. They're not after him. They're after us. I don't know, the indictment's mostly about him. First, they came for Trump, and I said nothing. Well, first they came for the documents, and he said nothing. Do you think that this is a proper use of the legal system? Well, I know it's not the proper use of a Mar-a-Lago bathroom. Turns out all you need is a weaponized government and a grand jury. Out of that lefty communist utopia of South Florida, with some deep state testimony from his own lawyers and employees. Look, when Trump's attorneys read this sham of an indictment, do you know what they're gonna do? Quit? Not all of them. We're just asking for equal justice. What happens when a Republican DOJ gets Hunter Biden's laptop? They did. Or when a special counsel investigates Biden's documents. They are. Packed away with his car. How out of touch is that? Well, at least it's not under a chandelier. Well, they are well lit. That's fair. Now, Mr. Chu, like so many of us here today, I'm worried about the oversaturation of Pedro Pascal. Nobody's watching my lives. What am I doing wrong? Now, come on now, that's not a real podcast, and you know it. What about the emotional whiplash of going from seeing a box of puppies to Joe Rogan talking about Atlantis? Now, you can save us all a lot of time by just telling us, is there anything the hydraulic press can't crush? It's a simple yes or no answer. I saw a video that said 10 things you didn't know about Die Hard. Now, I knew 8 of them. Is Mick Fleetwood getting my DMs? What about the emotional whiplash of someone discussing a Rembrandt painting to someone popping the biggest blackhead I've ever seen? It's like the comments don't thread naturally. We need to talk about regulating the millennial Zoom. About the emotional whiplash of going from security camera ghost footage to a humble interview with LeVar Burton. I have to say, after your testimony here today, I am strongly considering closing the app and then immediately opening it again. We begin tonight from my new location, an unguarded construction site 3 blocks from my old studio. With film equipment I snuck past security. It's amazing, you just offer them a Bud Light and they all run away screaming. Good to know. Now by now you know I'm no longer with Fox News, yet another person laid off in Joe Biden's America. This is usually when I ask vague, pointless, insinuating questions like, what am I hiding? What's really going on here? Well, I do have a number of options. Maybe I start a podcast called The Tuck Did You Just Say? Maybe me and Mike Lindell become a wrestling tag team called The Billow and the Pillow. And maybe I become a professional gambler with the most off-putting poker face known to man. Wherever I go next, just remember the network I've spent years telling you is the only trustworthy source of information you have. Well, they're actually part of the compromised mainstream media and have been this whole time. And they just weren't ready for this jelly. We'll be right back. Here's what you do with the Confederate statues. You should be able to put up any statue you want. Doesn't matter who it is. Any sexist, pedophile, homophobic monster, anybody you want. But the rule is, you have to sculpt it. Let's find out how many racists did 4 years at a fine arts college, right? Something tells me
the more you like Robert E. Lee, the less likely you can carve his fucking face out of copper. No statue's offensive if you can't tell what the fuck that's supposed to be. Just a bunch of people confused at a park. Is that supposed to be Stonewall Jackson or Jermaine Jackson? Pro Jermaine.
It's another week of Republicans trying to find a speaker. Here's a breakdown of all the obscure GOP congressmen they're about to try to promote. Guys like Franklin Ambrose, Norman Gilchrist, Grant Andersloot, Ben Crawford, Dean Mulligan, and Armand Kennedy. Each name older, whiter, and more forgettable than the last. Even the folksy ones like Benny Banks, Grady Waters, Chet Bloom, and Cy Abernathy. Did I make those names up? Are they even their real pictures? The fact you don't know for sure tells you everything you need to know about David Shoemaker, Brent Gramercy, Daniel Webster, Ron Riverton. Who cares if you've never heard of them? The GOP is about to irresponsibly give a platform to a bonanza of dead-behind-the-eyes, middle-aged men with smiles so forced you'll swear they're getting their picture taken against their will. Guys like Andy White, Bernard Pace, and of course, both Joe Leonards. The GOP demolition derby continues. It may be desperate, it may be dangerous, but is there anything more American than watching old white men redo an election over and over in a desperate attempt to get more votes than the qualified black guy? Stay tuned. Welcome to News Corp. As a new Fox News commentator, sending horrifically inappropriate messages is part of the job. But remember the following guidelines to make sure that your racist texts don't end up marginalizing you from the company. Scenario 1. You just saw Antifa protesters exercising their First Amendment rights, and you've got to tell someone how mad you are. Who do you message? A. An equally bigoted friend. B. Your Fox News producer. Or C. The New York Times. The answer, of course, is none of the above, as your texts might be deposed as evidence in one of our many legal altercations. The answer is D. Push that feeling deep down till you and your writers can express that anger on your show in a coded dog whistle style that maintains plausible deniability. Scenario 2. You can't help yourself texting a Fox News producer about being unable to manage your insatiable bloodlust towards differing political ideologies. It happens. And you're at the point where you want to say what white people do. Stop. This is dangerous. Now, of course you're right, humanity can and should be boiled down to what racial groups always do. But consult your Xenophobosaurus. Instead of white people, say patriots, heroes, real Americans, or Christians. Your Fox News producer will get it, and your Fox News lawyers will thank you. Welcome to the Fox News family. Remember, we hired you because we trust you to cram complex issues into culture war propaganda. So don't risk your job by texting something we can't believably release to the press that you regret. See you in primetime. Hi everybody, welcome to another meeting of the covert evil cabal of secretly well-organized Democrats that's definitely totally a real thing. Whoever coordinated all of the judges, grand juries, and Republican witnesses to conspire against Trump, great job. We would totally pay you overtime if we weren't financing all of those abortion clinics in Ukraine. You probably all saw at the Republican debate, we got called out for the climate change hoax. Ugh! Luckily, it was coincidentally the hottest July ever, so we should be able to dupe people a little longer, as long as no one else has the courage to ignore 97% of scientists. Of course, we're all jealous of rich men north of Richmond. So we've been working on a folk song with alliteration that we can loosely frame an ideology around. Right now we are workshopping There Needs Fixin' Below the Mesa Dixon. Yeah, that needs work. Okay, the Republicans are floating a Biden impeachment. We all know Hunter is really running the show, and we've been lucky that his manic, drug-addled influence on his father just happens to look exactly like the plodding, muted presidency of an 80-year-old moderate Democrat. Oh, by the way, next White House Coke party is tonight. Attendance is mandatory. So, if you will excuse me, I just found out we all weigh whatever we want now. I'm gonna go put some Ben & Jerry's on a pizza and see what happens. Live long and Soros. Still responding to conservative Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs holding him accountable for when he was the wrestler Kane. Why? 'Cause kayfabe. Our president doesn't seem to know who our allies are and who our adversaries are. Says the guy who for a decade was either teaming with or fighting against his brother on any given week? Inflation is no accident. Inflation is like Dusty Rhodes polka dots. Whether we like it or not, it's a big part of the American dream. I will always stand up and speak out for the most vulnerable. Spike Dudley disagrees. Education, not indoctrination. It's like you completely forgot the right to censor were all heels. Tennesseans shouldn't have to pay the price for Washington Democrats' spending habits. You knew this one was coming. Everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man. You're paying more at the grocery store because of Democrats' refusal to curb reckless spending. I'm more concerned with how much I paid for See No Evil. And finally, biological men don't belong in women's sports. Googling Kane versus China has determined that is a lie. I'm just gonna let me know when you're ready. They're not after him. They're after us. I don't know, the indictment's mostly about him. First, they came for Trump, and I said nothing. Well, first they came for the documents, and he said nothing. Do you think that this is a proper use of the legal system? Well, I know it's not the proper use of a Mar-a-Lago bathroom. Turns out all you need is a weaponized government and a grand jury. Out of that lefty communist utopia of South Florida, with some deep state testimony from his own lawyers and employees. Look, when Trump's attorneys read this sham of an indictment, do you know what they're gonna do? Quit? Not all of them. Look, do you know what Kevin McCarthy said? Trump bears responsibility for what happened at the Capitol? No, that this disrupts the nation and we won't stand for it. Well, that's just because it takes so long to read all 37 counts. Look, we're just asking for equal justice. What happens when a Republican DOJ gets Hunter Biden's laptop? They did. Or when a special counsel investigates Biden's documents? They are. Packed away with his car. How out of touch is that? Well, at least it's not under a chandelier. Well, they are well lit. That's fair. A pastor in Mississippi for like 8 minutes spoke in tongues about Trump's victory.
Go pray with him.
He thinks he's hearing the word of God, but he's really just hearing God's dishwasher. Oh, God, I hear God right now. He's saying, like, that's not...
Can I just say, like, how happy I am how poorly attended this event is? Like, we're saying mega church, but I'm imagining this is like a Marriott hotel.
What if he was like really close to what God wanted him to say, but not really? Like God's up there going like, no, I said gibbity gabbity goop, not gibbity gabbity geep. This guy's crazy. Like, if he keeps talking up like this, he's gonna think I work in mysterious ways. A thing happened today. A thing happened today. To find out how you should feel, let's move to our round table of people good at nodding. We have a political analyst, a policy analyst, a political policy strategist, reporter for a news site with an inexplicable paywall, host of a podcast you've never heard of, journalists shoehorning in their new book, also on Kindle, and someone with an opposing view we've lit slightly worse. It's good to see you all. First one to use the word unprecedented gets all the candy. That's why the only person who can lead this conference and this country into the prosperous future it deserves is the Honorable Kevin McCarthy. And that is why we need the leadership and determination of the Honorable Steve Scalise. Listen to me now. Nobody is more qualified than Jim Jordan. I'm not sure if my mic was working last time, so we're going to try it again. Jim Jordan. I say interim bow tie guy now, interim bow tie guy forever. I tell you what, I like that guy who looks like Kevin McCarthy in a fake mustache. All right, spitballing here. Donald Trump, but whenever he's in court, we take a recess. What about DeSantis? He's going to need a job soon. Okay, I just talked to Mike Lindell. He says he'll do it if we put the My Pillow logo somewhere prominent. What about David Duke with the baggage? Oh, you're right. That's just David Duke. Hear me out. Robo-Reagan. Well, yeah, we don't have the technology yet. Vladimir Putin. How does this keep getting in here? Jim Jordan, we all see you in that trench coat, and take off those sunglasses. I don't know, it's Reagan's brain in a stainless steel exoskeleton. Fine, what's your idea? Matt Gaetz? Just kidding, I wanted to see your faces. Hey, I've got somebody on Fiverr who says he'll do it for $30 and quote, if I can keep the gavel, lol. All right, I think we got it. Kelsey Grammer and Kid Rock will alternate Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, we'll close early, but we'll put a MAGA hat on a Roomba so that we look busy. Huh? All right. That wasn't so hard.
Now to help the American people. Unfair treatment. Hey, we agree on something. Think of all the people who can't negotiate their arraignment date. No, who aren't released on bail. No, who have mugshots taken. No! Look, we should let the voters decide. We did. You didn't like the results. So we can't take it to the courts? You did. You didn't like the results. Because our government's been weaponized. Did you hear Fani Willis say only through force do we make any change? See, there it is. She admits it. Oh, sorry, that was Matt Gaetz. Well, he has a point. He's saying you can't silence the truth. When's that big new evidence press conference again? It's been canceled. Okay. So, the election interference case that was conveniently delayed for years, Trump wants that trial in 2026. But if he violates his release, he'll be in jail till then. But he's not violating his release. You go after me, I'll come after you. Hey, excuse me. Oh, wait, were you quoting Trump? Yeah, that's not intimidation. He's just calling them evil so that one day he can be exonerated by a fair and impartial jury. Right, the people directly affected by the situation. Right, as long as the Georgia case is moved to federal court and the DC case is moved to West Virginia. And the documents case? Where is that one? Florida? Yeah, that one can stay. Right. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe, like, tell a friend, share it. I got some cool other stuff over here you might like as well. See you next time.